Howdy, YouTube folks. It is your girl Ellen from Ellen's Life, aka Spirit of the Wolf, Bushwiccan in the beginning, then just Spirit Wolf for all of you OGs. That I guess that really matters, but I think I pretty much touched in a video why I changed the name. But, anyways, I was sitting here and I was listening to a musical artist, and I don't know if you've heard of Tut Taylor. He was a famous dobro player, like predominantly in the 60s, and I believe some in the 70s too, but mainly 60s, maybe some in the 50s. Not 100% sure on that, but but again, I believe predominantly 60s. But quite honestly, I don't know where I want to take my music. I really love music, and it's something I've always been passionate about. And I believe, looking back now, when I was younger, if I continued getting more passionate about music and stuff like that, I probably wouldn't have done half of the things that I did back then, and wouldn't have. I re Let's put it this way: I regret that I did them because they weren't right in a way, but I realized they were mistakes I made, and lessons have been learned from them, and so I've bettered my life since future me now at age 32. Um, so yeah, I feel like I've mellowed out more. I've tried to come more in tune with myself, if that makes any sense. But I've I've often weighed if I want to make music a career at some point, and part of me has wanted to become a musician, and part of me not, because I know the stresses of being a musician, and would I be able to hold up? Would I be good enough for the material that's needed? Could I conform to a more modern standard of music and be okay with that? Also, I haven't quite figured out what I would want to do as far as a style. I've always thought it would be kind of cool in one way to for my niece, or one of my nieces, um, of my living brother, the one that did not die, the one that's not deceased, and his family, and maybe my deceased brother's, which is my nephew, and his sisters, but I don't know if that family would want to join in on it and create like a family band. And I also don't know if there'd be enough instruments, but like country bluegrass folk band maybe, because I am very much into bluegrass country. I love the dobro. I love the fiddle style of violin, and I really love like acoustic guitar, which I have. I believe I made videos on my instruments, and the piano, obviously, which is used in country music, older country music, but this right here. So yeah, I believe I have made some, um, like I said, I've made some videos on those, and I love this guitar, the color of it. It's giving 1950s cowgirl style guitar, and that's why I really wanted it. Because as you also probably know, if I haven't mentioned it, I'm really into rockabilly music, from like shorts that I've made and sounds that I've used in my shorts. But I am into more modern styles of music like rap and stuff, so I honestly don't know where I'd want to go. If I wanted to just be a rockabilly style band, which would probably be more so where I would lean, or do I just want to become a rap artist? Because it would be cool to be a rap artist, but the thing with being a rap artist, I have observed from my experience, and please enlighten me on this if you think think differently, but you got to really know rhyming. Not that I couldn't. I shouldn't say that I'm bad. I feel I'm bad at rhyming, because I've done some poetry and I'm okay, but I wouldn't say I'm award winning, in my opinion. And you gotta rhyme and make it work, and adding life experiences into your rhymes are probably a better way of making the music, because that's basically essentially what rap is, especially gangster rap. And I don't, and I think I would almost envision myself going more towards a gangster rap, but I don't know if I want to make it a career because as much as I love it, like I said, I don't know if I want that stress of the fame and all of that. Plus, I have other things I'm really interested in too. And as I've mentioned in a video I just recently put up yesterday evening, my evening, um, which is now currently, um, but it was done the yesterday one. Anyways, about working with kids and doing activities, but I've thought about it, and I also forgot to mention that I might be good at doing, like, as I get better with instruments, maybe doing something musical with kids and engaging kids into music and helping them get there. I feel like a lot of the genres that I'm into as far as music, like rockabilly, is kind of still in, but like bluegrass, the bluegrass as I really like, and the country in general as I really like is kind of a dead genre because it's 1950s style, and there are some people bringing it back, but I just don't feel it has the same fame to it. And I'm not saying this in a way that I'm seeking fame and I want fame. That's not what I'm about, but I would rather do something if I was going to make it a career that would benefit me and make me money and know that I could get gigs. And I'm not saying that, like, I've watched these different artists recently that have tried to revive that old 50s style of country, and I think one of them is the countryside of Harmonica Sam, and I believe they probably do make some good money at what they do. But again, I guess where I'm going with that is I feel that's a niche now. So either you can book a gig with the niche of that style, which would be something I would feel more apt to do, or move on with the more modern style of music and guarantee that you're going to make money and tons of money and make it a very profitable versus just being a niche and always making that set income that you make in a gig economy. And that's really what it is. And I was watching a YouTuber recently that probably like 3 weeks ago that touched on this that I watched from the beginning because of their knowledge in electronics. I think they're one of the first, if not the first, people that I watched on YouTube about electronics and what made me interested in old appliances and trying to see how they work and stuff and troubleshooting them to the best of my abilities. And I'm still learning because it's an off and on thing when I do it. It's kind of when the inspiration comes. But anyways, they're a guitarist and they've always lived what they classify the gig economy lifestyle, and that's what it is a gig economy. And I've always said to myself, do I want to live a gig economy lifestyle or do I want to live a steady lifestyle? And that's also why I'm leaning towards not making it a career as much as it would be cool, because I want to be able to live a steady lifestyle. And if I knew I could make a decent income at being a musician and not necessarily having like what, take for instance Nickelback uh, Snoop Dogg has, for example, or Limp Bizkit, stuff like that. Not me necessarily striving to have the big house and all of that stuff and the fame and the loads of money, but at least making a decent income out of it so I could survive is what I would want out of all that. Plus, I would probably have to move to Hollywood, California, or at least make it my main place if I was going to go as big as some of them, like Snoop Dogg and stuff, because that's where most of those musicians are from. Cali, West Coast, East Coast. Tupac I believe, was from California, and that's just the way it is. That's the culture. The low riders, the gangsta rap, Dr. Dre, all of them. So that's another thing to factor in, is that I may have to uproot, and I don't know if I necessarily want to uproot from the state I'm in. I don't know if I always want to be in the same house I'm in right now, even though it's a family home. because I've always wanted an older home that hasn't been remodeled to someone else's taste, that is mostly original and hasn't really been touched in 80 years, except maybe like the kitchen stove went out and they had to swap it, but they stuck the old kitchen stove on the porch so I could have those refurbished and redo the house in the vintage way that I would like to see a home. And I did find one in a neighboring county that I would love to own, that I think has been vacant for years and years, and I'd love to know who owns it, because there's a truck in the yard every time I drive by it when I go that way that's never moved. And as far as I know, that's like a old 70s 80s slant nose Ford. I believe those were done in like the 70s and 80s with a plow on it, and to my knowledge it never moves. Every time I go by it seems to just sit there. And I think it's an old farm, but that doesn't mean anything, because the farmer could just never use that truck really anymore. And it was mostly in the summer when I saw it, but usually most of the time when people have stuff like that, they at least go and maintenance it and start it up every once in a while and make sure it's gonna move. So that's what led me to believe maybe it's an abandoned place. But anyways, that would be, so what I'm saying is I don't know if I would ever want to leave my state, essentially, is where I'm going with this, to another state. But I would like to visit places like I mentioned in the vacation video, and one I didn't mention that's been on my kind of considered list, but I gave a generalization because there were a bunch of them, is California. Because for those of you who grew up in the 90s and early 2000s like I did, because I'm a 90s baby born in 1992, and I grew up through the 90s, and in the early 2000s you'll probably be familiar. I think it started in 98, I believe, but some of you can correct me, it's been a little while. But I do remember some of the episodes is Charmed, and it would be cool to go to the house and the filming location of Charmed, the main house of the whole. Plus maybe getting to see where the bar was, that's part of the sister's family that they do. I'm trying to remember the name of the bar. I'm picturing it now, but I forget the name of it. And anyways, it'd be cool to see those filming locations, because that was a television program that I really loved and I really enjoyed watching growing up. And I believe That's So Raven, for those of you who are familiar with that, was filmed in San Francisco, and if I'm not mistaken, the non-cartoon version. And it would be cool to also see the house that they lived in from the filming of That's So Raven, for those of you who've seen that. And I feel like there's something else that also there. Well, Suburbia, I believe it's called, if you've seen that 1980s punk movie about the punk rock kids living in that abandoned housing complex. That was also done too, but I believe that was done in Los Angeles, which would still be cool to see. But yeah, I feel like there's something else. But anyways, that's a place I would like to go. But again, I don't think I would necessarily want to live there full time, because I just love where I'm at, and of my state, and it's my home state. It's where I was born. It's where I was raised. It's the state I've lived in most of my life, other than, like I mentioned in the vacation video, traveling to Maine 1 year for a vacation, and we had to go through New Hampshire and of course hit the toll bridges, and going to New York a lot, and it was in Moores, New York, where we would go to a family friends through my mother's parents, the ones that lived here. And anyways, so yeah, I've done some traveling. I've been places. I've been all over the state that I live in with my grandfather. We would just travel because he liked to. He was an ex-truck driver, and he loved to explore. And when he was younger, after he started to get more spare time, and especially when he retired in 95, he would, because he had a motorhome. It was an 89, I believe I mentioned it in videos, an 89 Ford Econoline. motorhome that they'd had for years. I think he bought it new in '89. And anyways, they traveled everywhere with that, as I remember as a kid. But before that, they had gone to other places like the Grand Ole Opry in Nashville in the '70s. So yeah, I've just been growing up around exploration. But yeah. So I guess the premises, because here I am rambling on about other stuff I kind of already touched. But I guess the premises of that is I like where I'm at, and in order for me to become someone that was making a decent income at music, I feel like I would have to go to a place like that and go to a city like that. But at the same token, I do believe I could live in a city easily enough and be okay with it. I just don't know if I want to travel out of this state and live in another state. Plus, I'd be away from my family, and I do care about my family. Whether there's times when me and my family might not see eye to eye certain family members, but it is what it is, and I'm not going to get into detail about that. You don't really need to know that. I don't really want to say any more about it unless I already have, which I could have a little bit, but I don't really want to touch on that too much anyways, because that's a negative and I'm trying to be positive. But yeah, so that's another factor in my not wanting to leave this state. Plus, I know that my mom would worry about me. Plus, again, as I said, I have a cat that was my grandfather's that I've affectionately dubbed Miss Kitty. And if you've seen on my social media, you know what I'm talking about. And for those of you who are familiar with Gunsmoke, I was born in the '90s but grew up watching Gunsmoke, Sanford and Son, Bonanza, and Andy Griffin, and a lot of the older programs that they used to play on TV Land before it became all modern, classic, mainstream. Like, as sad as it was, I should have predicted what, and as sad and as bummed as I was, I should have been more realization and remembered that this was as predicted, because all TV stations do this. They change from what they are, going from Sanford and Son to Everybody Loves Raymond and Golden Girls. I mean, Everybody Loves Raymond kind of had its little bit of funniness, I guess. I watched it when it was younger, but to me it's kind of cheesy now and stupid, but whatever. Um, that's just my opinion. Um, if you like it, that's fine. But yeah, so I grew up watching that kind of stuff, and that's kind of where the name Miss Kitty came from. So yeah. Anyways, I think this is gonna kind of do it for the video. I think I pretty much touched on my premises, but I felt I should make a video, I guess, about music, about where I'm thinking about making my music. And if you'll notice anything about my videos before I close this out, I will say this, is that I want to try to make more inspirational videos that might benefit other people, but at the same token, you also might find me making blog videos just talking about my life to the extent as I want to, like things like this and what's on my mind. And that's just is what it is. And again, as I've said, that's why I have no pressure for the liking, comment, subscribe, and notification thing. I can't stress that enough, because if you don't really want to hear a ton of blog stuff and don't really, and you're not as interested in people's thoughts on their life and their things, that's totally understandable. But you might like other things, and I'm going to try to make other videos like the vacation one to help impact people more than just talking about blogs and my thoughts on my head. But again, like I said, you'll find that most of my videos are going to be things that come to me as I need to and that I feel inspired to state. And I'm going to try to stay away from a ton of opinion videos. I know I'm guilty of it, but like I made a political opinion video in the recent years, and I almost kind of regret doing that, even though it's my feelings, or like my feelings on certain modern ways, and they're my feelings, and I guess it's okay to make those, but I feel like maybe I should, because I wasn't in a for say good headspace made those videos. So I'm debating whether I want to delete them, because really at the end it's my opinion, and does it really matter? You know, not saying that opinions don't matter, but you know what I mean. Like, everybody has a different opinion, and why should my opinion be the only thing of importance? And I feel like by making a video like that, I was kind of making my opinion important, and like feeling like I had to state my opinion, and this is how I feel because I got bugged by something I saw, and everyone needs to know how I feel, and I don't want to be like that, because like I said, that's what I created this channel on in the first place, is a safe environment of freedom, and just skip the opinions and skip the BS and just live life. And I also have tried to make this kid friendly as much as possible too. So if there's any kids that happen to stumble across my stuff and may find something out of it, I want it to be friendly for them. So I try not to swear. And I believe by me uploading videos also, I will say this before I close, of the old country and western and certain like albums I have, which I want to do more of as well. I believe that's bringing that music to light. So maybe if, say, some younger generation, like someone in their teens, watches that, and maybe they can correlate with a song from that, that might get them interested in that older country, and it might keep that older country from my grandparents' era still alive as I believe it should be, because of what it is. Because majority of the older people, including my grandparents who grew up with that music, and it was made back in their era of the, say, the 50s through the 70s, for example, and earlier, because my grandparents were born in the late 30s, but they were around in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, and 80s, and 90s, you know, and some of that 90s country that was from my era, you know, I just want that to be preserved, because I feel it's a piece of musical history that if a lot of kids, even though some of it can be like heart-wrenching music in a way, because it's like heartbreak and love and stuff, it's also a reality thing, and it's keeping it alive. So that's why I've been doing that. And I've also been making sure to put in that I don't own the rights to that music, so I don't get slandered with any copyright, because that's not my intent. My intent is just to keep the music alive and keep it remembered in the hearts of many, and hope that maybe there's younger people who might, even if it's not the full album, they might find a song that they think is their really favorite song off of that album that they can correlate with things they're going through, and maybe it can help them, and maybe make them say, oh, I bet there's more music like this that can touch me, and keep it alive. The only ones I may or may not post, because again, I've also, even though I've stated my religious beliefs and how I believe in God, but in a certain way, may not post any of videos of my religious hymn albums if I can help it, just because I don't want to feel like I'm shoving religion down people's throats, because I do have religious country vinyl, and I also have, if you're familiar, those of you who are old enough and are still around with us, and we're grateful you're still here, because I feel elderly people can be a wealth of knowledge. I'm just saying that, and as the truth, because my grandparents were wealth of knowledge. The singing nun, Dominique, I have one of hers, but again, I don't know if I want to post that or not, because because what I want to do with this channel, I don't know if that will annoy people, because it's religious based, and I don't want to do that, because I know everybody comes from different religions and beliefs, and different beliefs around God and how he works, or she works, or they work, you know. So anyways, I think I'm going to end it here now, because I've ranted long enough, and I think this is like a rant blog video. It started out with one topic, and then I just lost it on everything else, but I feel like I needed to make this video in prefaces of all of this. And look for some more uploads, because lately I've been really inspired to upload more, and I don't know what it is. Something in my brain has said to me, girl, you need to upload, because You need to just get your thoughts out to the world. And I hope y'all are all doing well, and I hope y'all are just living your life and just doing what you need to do for yourself and in a good mental state, because I'm in a far better mental state since I went on antidepressants, and I've finally realized I need to get my life in check and stop living in my emotional grief and my sadness and my sorrow as much. You'll always miss people, and you're always going to be sad about them, but knowing how to deal with those emotions instead of constantly being sad every day, all year round, versus maybe the day of their death and being sad and knowing, oh, well, they died in this time, or on their birthday and being sad, which to me is a little more understandable than every day, all year round, like myself. And I know there's people that suffer with it, and I'm hoping you guys can get to your better headspace, because as I've said before, it's not ever going to go away, but I feel like it can get better if you let it get better. And I feel like the people that you mourn over may not, being where they are now, if they could fully speak right at you, they would probably say they don't want you doing that because they know it's not healthy for your life, and they don't really want people mourning over them. Plus, my grandfather always used to state, we would somehow get on the subject, that he said if and when anything ever happened to me, because he had health issues, and we had a conversation one time, I said I would be very sad, and I don't know if I could help to stop mourning over you. And he said it, and even my grandmother said it, we don't want you mourning over us, we want you remembering us for who we are. And I feel like I'm kind of letting them down a little bit because of that reason, and so therefore that's why I'm trying to get myself in a better headspace. And I think they're understandable, but just remembering those words, don't mourn over me, miss me but don't mourn over me, is something that's stuck in my head and gave in recent years given me the drive to say I need to change. So I hope that everyone going through that, before I officially finally close this video out, knows that, and knows that that's probably what they want, and just know that things are going to get better. And I love y'all, and everyone who views my videos, I love y'all, and I hope you stay safe and happy and healthy. And as always, keep your heads up, stay strong, all that kind of jazz, and have an excellent time, whatever it is, wherever you are. And as always, like I like to say, since I found that rainbow magnet, which I believe I showed in a video that I found out in the shop that was missing the magnet bits, I think, if I remember correctly. Old kids thing, sunshine, unicorns, and rainbows. And if I haven't, maybe someday I'll show it, but I'm pretty sure I did. It's the rainbow with the two clouds on either side. And explain to you that's what gave me the inspiration to do that. Anyways, and I will catch you in the next video.